Hey, hello. Welcome to episode number 109 of the People We Love podcast. I am Adam Choit. What's up? If you're new here, what I do is interview people from all walks of life, most often comedians and other artists, about their lives and careers. The conversation is casual, but I also ask everyone to highlight the people they love, who they admire, who influenced them, inspired them, or supported them. For more, check out peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's peoplewelovepodcast.com. And the Instagram handle is at peoplewelovepodcast. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter as well, at Adam Choit, if you want to follow me. And please remember to tap subscribe or follow on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. And of course, positive reviews on iTunes, Apple Podcasts are greatly appreciated as well. So, today's guest is comedian and writer Wally Baram. Splitting her time growing up between Southern California and New Jersey, she recalls being into bugs and watching the George Lopez show on Nick at Night as a kid. But by high school, she kind of knew she had an itch to try comedy and performed at her very first open mic during her senior year. Wally is very much still in the early stages of her career, but there's no doubt some of her humor must come from her one-of-a-kind, hilarious mom. But let's just get started. Here's Wally Baram. So it's good to see you today, Wally Baram. Thank you for joining me on the Zoom. I appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Oh, how are you holding up during whatever the year it is?
Whatever the year it is. I'm doing pretty okay. Comparatively, I feel like comparatively, how is anyone going to, either you've been like hit and you're bad, or you're like, hey, I'm still, my blood is pumping.
Yeah.
My blood is pumping. That's where I am at.
Yeah, that's like gratitude for just being alive.
Yeah, something like, I don't know if I'm so filled with joy every morning that is that one might deduce from gratitude being alive, but I'm somewhere around there.
You're just not a morning person.
That could be it.
That changes because I'm a little bit older than you, so I feel like I'm becoming more the morning person, and I think that's just a natural thing.
I don't know if I'm in any part of the day. I get up and I'm the morning, and then I'm like, it's noon, and I'm like, there's too much ahead in the day, and there's still a little bit behind. This isn't right. Then we hit 3 p.m. and I'm like, there's this weird. I'm like, now I'm exhausted, always exhausted at 3 p.m. Nighttime comes around. I'm like, wow, I just wasted a day.
Sounds like you're at peace with everything in your life, and everything's just like perfect.
Yeah,
where you want it to be.
Yes, Adam, that's where I'm at.
Cool. But why don't we go back in time, and you could tell me a little bit about like your background and like where you grew up, and like, I don't know, sometimes I ask like what people's like earliest memories, even like pre-kindergarten, if anything jumps out at you. Sometimes they're pleasant, sometimes they're not. But tell me about like your family and where you grew up and that kind of thing.
Damn, you get into it. My earliest memories. Well, okay, I grew up. I'm like kind of half my family's from New Jersey and half is from Long Beach, Southern California. My dad's half is from New Jersey and my mom's half is from Southern California. I'm Mexican and Syrian, my mom being Mexican, my dad being Syrian, and those cultural influences being pretty strong. And so I did a lot of back and forth. I probably identify most with being from New Jersey just because I kind of was with we moved around a lot on the California side, and the New Jersey side was always kind of went back to the same place. And also just kind of the vibes of being from New Jersey.
Where did your parents meet?
They met in church, believe it or not, in the Catholic church.
In what, like in New Jersey and California, halfway? They met in California. Met in California, but their families were from, I got you.
Both places, yeah.
Gotcha. What about siblings? You have siblings?
Just me. Me.
Just you? And you spent most of where were you, like in like elementary school?
Both. I was in both. I did a lot of
California and New Jersey back and forth?
New Jersey, yes. Like weekends in New Jersey and weeks in LA. They're not together. So things got a little dicey.
Your childhood is like my adulthood dream of being bicoastal, and it's also many other people's dreams.
Yeah.
It's unsettling when I imagine it was unsettling to move, and you could tell me more about like moving a lot and what that was like for you growing up. But that's like, that's what I'm trying to get back to.
I know.
I'm from the East Coast. Like, I would love to be able to have some life here and some life there for sure. But what was it like for you moving around as a kid?
I would say it was a little bit difficult because definitely in California, I didn't have, when you're constantly picking up and setting back up, it's hard to establish roots. And as a kid, you don't create a lot of really close friends. And so I
Right.
didn't really have a community here. But back east, again, that's where I would go and have the same group of neighborhood friends. Yeah, it also on, I would say in California, I spent a lot of time going back and forth between very Mexican and very white neighborhoods. And that is also a lot to unpack in terms of, you know, figuring out where I fit in both those communities, being
Right.
half Mexican, half Syrian or white. So there was definitely a lot going on for a young brain.
Yeah, it's interesting how like you can feel like, oh, I don't fit anywhere, but I also feel like maybe part of me can fit everywhere. Like I'm speaking like generally for, I don't know. Does that do you kind of like have
Yeah,
those thoughts and
absolutely.
feelings?
You definitely, I think, have you definitely feel frustrated that you can't be a part of both groups. In many ways, I felt like I'm too sort of white and Syrian for my Mexican family, and I'm
Yeah, accepted in a way that everyone else in the group is accepted in that group.
exactly, yeah. It's difficult, and at the same time, I, you know, it makes sense to me why I'm not, but also it's hard because you don't have your own subsection as a result. It's a little bit harder to find people that match your identity. And so I connect with a lot of people that have mixed cultural identities.
Yeah, that's all good stuff though. That's enriching, I
Yeah, I
think.
talk about it in stand up a lot. So it's
Yeah,
given me a lot of material.
we should be our own group, create our
Yeah,
own groups, lead our own groups. I
there
don't
you
know.
go.
Yeah. What about things that you were into, like in like even when you were like in elementary school, like were you into like sports, music, art, or are you just like packing suitcases all the time so you don't even have time to that's like your hobby?
I mean, that would be a really sad. That's like Annie, like the Broadway musical type of sad of a. I don't know. That'd be a sad hobby for a kid.
Yeah,
Uh,
even going to like New York, New Jersey, or in Southern California, like sort of like interesting places, like
yeah. Um,
it's
I
still
was
hard.
really into I was really into science. I was into bugs. I'm still into bugs. I'm still into science. I'm still like, I don't know. I was a fact kid. I was like, uh, that was that's the type of kid I was. I would say.
Facts.
Yeah. Oh, big on the facts. Still big on the facts. I can drop a lot of facts.
Yeah, but and science.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. What kind of bugs? What more can you tell me about bugs?
What can't I tell you about bugs? Um, I was just like really into as a kid, like finding bugs and like looking under. Even to this day, I do a lot of hiking and looking under rocks and things. I just think they're so. I guess these are probably those those do feel like lonely kid hobbies, but I was so fascinated by that type of deal.
Are you afraid of any bugs, and do you think any are gross?
I hate spiders for sure.
All kinds, like
All kinds of spider.
yeah.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
I don't mind like a small little spider isn't too horrible, like but like some of the big ones in that the movie or whatever with the big like ones that are as hairy as made, like no, we don't want
Yeah.
it. We don't
Yeah.
want those kind and almost the same size.
Yes, exactly. Well, I'm big. No hair. No hair on the spider. That's
Yeah.
where that's where I draw. I truly draw the line. In terms of visceral fear is exactly when another animal has as much hair or an insect has as much hair. Like why do they need that? A lot of questions.
Science, find out the facts.
Yeah.
You'll have to look into the facts. But you did tell me you had friends in New Jersey, and I don't know if they were all into bugs as much as you. So you must have had like some things that you guys were into. Your
Yeah.
New Jersey
They
people.
actually, I would say they were into bugs, into movies, of course. I mean, I was definitely a movies and TV kid. for sure. We all were. Sorry, and I didn't mean to paint it like I was the world's loneliest kid. I just was reflecting that Bugs was an odd hobby.
Yeah, I was into bugs too. Like I was definitely into, like, I don't know. I wanted to have an ant farm, and my mom's like, no, that's gonna break and be a disaster. Never ever.
I was thinking about that recently. What like a crazy toy for children that they had. It was just like, it's almost like our generation's equivalent of the pet rock, where they took the most benign, like ubiquitous thing and figured out how to monetize it. Like, what kids bought ant farms. They were stoked to have ant farms, but if you saw an ant farm on the ground, you're like, or ants on the ground, you'd be like, that is obviously not a toy.
But they're contained, so it's like it's more like a pet. It's pets.
But you're not. Maybe, yeah. You could play God. That's a fun.
That's what I was actually thinking. Like, you're kind of playing God, but God already created the ants. You're just creating. You're God to the ants. I see. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
By controlling their environment.
Yeah.
Their brains are too small to understand that we're gods, though. That stinks.
True. I think if I'm getting that stinks. I want them to worship me.
Right. Oh man, how far did we get off track?
I know. I'm sorry.
I want to know what you were watching, like, on TV. When, like, we're gonna get into the comedy stuff and when that became more prominent. Like, tell me more about that journey. Like, were you watching were you watching movies you shouldn't have been when you were like young? Because that's a lot of people's stories. I just remember seeing so-and-so, George Carlin, Richard Pryor, something.
I feel like, my dad is culturally, at his core, he definitely has a lot of very strong Syrian values, I would say, and a lot of the being a little bit more conservative. So I wasn't even allowed to watch Mamma Mia until I was 18. I mean, I definitely, once I hit high school, went down the trove of discovering media for myself and being like, all this exists, and having to hide from my dad that I'd seen X or Y. But a little bit later in life, then I feel like you're the phenomena you might be referencing. When I was younger, I watched a lot of George Lopez on a lot of Nick at Night. Nick at Night. Yeah.
He's funny.
Yeah. Well, no, even now he's funny.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. I mean, there's a lot of talented people out there.
True.
He's one of them.
I think I watched a lot of, I guess this was my equivalent of that phenomena, was like staying up a little bit late and watching Fresh Prince, or that's about as crazy as it got. That was my middle school. I watched a lot of Fresh Prince reruns and George Lopez reruns. I don't think those shows were still...
No, they're not. That's my generation is Fresh Prince. Yeah. I was watching. I was around for when that was premiering. We'll just say that. I was gonna say, tell me more about, like, George Lopez, actually, and like what did you love about his show and his comedy and whatnot?
I think when I was very, very young, I remember we had to do like a weird collage in school. I think this was elementary school, about sort of your culture and your family. I don't quite remember it. I was supposed to bring in something that represented me, or like make a collage about my family. I remember I put on the collage a bunch of people that like were not Mexican or Syrian. I think it was just appreciating seeing someone that looked like me on screen, really. I feel like Mexicans have a very unique sense of humor. Maybe not unique because it's still pretty broad, but it's a little bit more. When I do shows down there, my comedy's allowed to be like a little bit more ham-fisted, a little bit. I don't want to say cornier because that makes it feel like I'm putting it down, but like just a little bit bigger. And I feel like that show kind of captured it pretty well. And I haven't seen it very recently, but I also feel like he did a good job balancing what it's like to kind of be, Mexican American versus just Mexican. I haven't seen it in a while, but that sort of feels like if what I can remember how it spoke to me.
Yeah, it's like if the show's lasted that long, it must have like that universal appeal to some degree, but also what makes it great is the specific things that are cultural.
For sure. Absolutely. I think it took a lot of people's experiences and manufactured in a way that was absolutely broad and general and universal. I mean, it's like a network, Nick at Night TV show. But it still played to some of the more specific things about that cultural experience the best that it could.
Yeah, he always comes across as like authentic also, at least to me, in everything that he does. So I recall the episodes that I've seen, like something about like his whole style and tone is like, just, you want to be friends with George Lopez. Like who would not want to be friends with George Lopez?
Well, have you seen him now? I'm pretty sure he's pretty, he has more of an aggressive presence on stage now. But even still, but I feel like he's kind of he used to be a little bit more approachable, but now he's kind of come into a very like confident, a little bit more aggressive.
Dude, that's why I want to be his friend even more now.
Yeah.
Like, for real.
I'm a little bit afraid of him now.
Yeah. No, that's cool. George Lopez. And what about like when you were in high school, even if you were, I guess, bouncing back and forth, like you graduated ultimately in California, you said?
Yeah, I went to a boarding school for high school. I went to a
what is that exactly?
It's a very specific type of boarding school. It was a boarding school in Ojai, where every freshman had to take care of a horse.
What the hell? What kind of crazy school is this? I've been to Ojai, so I guess I could picture horses there.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cute little ranch,
right?
Little ranch town, but it was kind of back in the hills of Ojai, in the Sespe Wilderness is what they call it, and every freshman had to take care of a horse, not in like what's the word? It wasn't trying to discipline you. It wasn't a disciplinary school, but it was designed to teach you a variety of character values. Like,
yeah,
it kind of felt like it was almost like a simulation for parenthood in a weird way, and that you had this thing that would
responsibility kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely, accountability.
All those things that are annoying.
So annoying, most annoying, truly.
Character values.
Yeah, gross.
Our society doesn't, we're not interested in those anymore.
Truly.
Past all that.
And with a horse, you can't negotiate your way out of learning quote unquote character values. So you with a person, you can kind of get out of things, or you speak the same language, but with a horse, what you give them is exactly what it is, if that makes any sense. Like what you put in it's very face value with a horse. You can't show up late for the horse. The horse is going to react like, oh,
they sense how you feel about them and will act based on that and how you're behaving. Like they're very responsive. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
To your energy or something like that?
I mean, that is definitely true. Was constantly freaking out. So they definitely sense your energy, but I guess more like you have to show up for a horse. You can't make excuses because it does not know English, and so it's not going to have compassion for your excuses.
Wow, I don't want to like become friends with a horse and then like the horse moves away or I move away and then it's the whole thing. It seems very thick. Could be
the horse moves away.
Yeah, I don't know.
Horse family.
Yeah, it's very sensitive.
They are really sensitive.
They don't have acquaintances. You're my friend or you're not. There's no acquaintances with horses.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is that rule?
They're like, I trust you, or no, I would say it's more you're the boss or you're not the boss is the binary there.
What was your horse's name? I must have had a specific horse.
I had two. Yeah. I had one named Jamie. And then that was my freshman year horse. And then you can continue the horse program or you could not. And then later on I had a horse named Jerry, who did not respect me at all.
Yeah. Do you know Rachel Friedland? The Friedland?
I've seen her name.
Yeah, the comedian. Yeah. She's like was a horse girl. That's her words.
Okay, let me
yeah.
just establish here. I was not a horse girl. I was
Yeah, that's
not,
what she said too.
no. Well, you just said her words. You just said her words.
Well, she said, what'd she say? I'm not, or like, I don't know, maybe in recovery or something she said. I don't know.
I have never been a horse person.
Yeah.
Attracted to like the cowboy of it all and sort of I like the idea of the West, and I like sort of the lifestyle and I don't know, the technique of it, but I never had a figurine horse as a child. That was not me.
That's what people do when they get older. Female humans especially will start to gather animal figurines. I noticed that's the thing. Moms and grandmas have to gather animal figurines. I don't know what it may. I was thinking about it. Maybe it's like a spiritual. There's all these animals have like a spiritual quality to them. So on some level, people connect with that aspect of it. I don't know.
I think that is, at least for the members of my family, has happened when someone has passed. Suddenly they're like, oh my gosh, comes to me in the form of a squirrel. And now I have like 40 squirrels. This is not me. This is.
Yeah, no, I see this play out too. I think what you're saying. Yeah.
I think it's exactly the spiritual aspect, but tethered specifically to the death of a person.
But people don't. Yeah, I think maybe some people do this, collect this stuff or start to become interested in stuff, and it's might not even be super conscious. They might just think, I like this thing, but like now it's like, I don't know. I don't understand anything about the universe, just so you know.
I feel like you have all the answers here.
I do?
Yeah.
Oh, I just have a lot of the questions. Yeah. Just have a lot of, and I have possibilities. I have a lot of thoughts on like what could be, but I don't fucking know if any of them are.
Me neither, Adam. Me neither. Maybe
this podcast. I thought I'd get all the answers in this interview. This one.
I feel like maybe it just at some point you lose a personality and you're like, crap, I got to start collecting stuff. I feel like
that's a darker potential, darker thing. But what about like in high school? What did you think you would be doing? What was your plan? Like in the boarding school, the not disciplinary, in parentheses.
Thank you. I was torn. I knew I wanted to be a comedian, and I kind of felt like that's what I was going to do. But I also, for a while, in the very beginning, was entertaining some sort of idea of working in government or with languages, because I do speak Spanish, I do speak a little bit of Arabic, and I studied Chinese. And so I thought maybe I could use those, but over time it became clear that I just, in a super clean cut professional setting, I don't know how far I would truly. I was like, I feel like in any sort of political or diplomatic setting, I would not want to rely on me for anything like vitally important.
Because you're just not comfortable and that's not who you are, or because
exactly.
Why? Is it, yeah.
I think it was sort of almost okay. So I think about this sometimes. When I worked my first office job, part of my comedy, I love to sort of be a little bit self-deprecating, but kind of, I think it's really entertaining when people do dumb things. When I do dumb things, I'm really delighted by it afterwards and looking back on it. And so
right. What do you mean afterwards? When I do dumb things, I'm delighted by that. Now there's like a space in there where you're like, what the fuck does that? No. What do you mean you're delighted after?
I would sometimes when I do dumb things and as it's happening, I'm like, or if I've put myself in a tough situation, I think it's funny and I'm laughing as it's happening. That might be a nervous laughter too, but I'm very good at, or I don't know if this is a good thing, but I'm immediately kind of looking at the big picture and being like, oh, this was idiotic. That's
a great attitude to have. And that's like something I sort of have started to think more about like recently and like even aspire towards like being more that way. So for you to like already be doing that, that's good. You have the answers.
I wouldn't say, I don't mean like when I make a mistake. I mean like when I do something true, because I'm pretty dumb. I can do things that are like, what? How did this really like? I talk about this in stand up sometimes, but I once accidentally I put out rat poison in my house because I had I'm sorry, ant poison in my house because I had an ant problem, and they looked like these little crumbs. And then I came back, left the house, came back, and then ate some of the ant poison because I thought it was like a tasty crumb.
On the
So
floor?
no, it was on my kitchen counter. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, delicious crumbs. Like
yeah.
that kind of dumb is what I'm talking about, where it
Yeah.
happened. And I was like, I'm going to be super ill, but I think this is hysterical.
Yeah. I think maybe at that point you're just like, oh, this is it like this could be a bit, this could be a thing, this could be a story, this could be something.
Maybe a little bit. Maybe
You're
a little.
entertaining yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think so.
What you said it was kind of like a slow burn, like deciding you wanted to be a stand-up comedian or something. Were you watching a lot of stand-up comedy? Like it sounded like throughout maybe high school it started to seep in.
I would say, yeah, I would say so. I don't, it's weird. I feel like I wasn't quite a comedy nerd in that I watched a ton of really early stand-ups. Um, During my high school career, Netflix original stand-up specials were a thing, fortunately, so I could like I had those as a reference. I was really into Brian Regan. He was
Yeah.
my first like favorite comedian, absolutely. Um, then from there, you know, I watched some old like Richard Pryor. I some Chappelle. It was super into Chappelle. Not a lot of I was really into a lot of people that I knew had done stand up and then transitioned into other things. Not that that's really something that I'm interested in that transition, but it was how I was seeing a lot of female comedians just in general. Um, or Mindy Kaling, I guess, was not in stand up, but I was really big on her. I thought she was fantastic. The Mindy Project was like my favorite show in high school. I did watch in high school some of the older SNL reruns that featured mostly stand ups, like the um, like Spade era
Spade.
and
Yeah. The
yeah,
90s, the early 90s.
early 90s for sure. I'd say, yeah. Does that answer?
Yeah, you got a good broad education, it sounds like, for sure. Like I think people can be too hard on them, comedians or creatives of any kind, like that. I don't know enough about every single person who's done what I'm aspiring to do. I have to watch everything. I think I don't know, this is just my personal belief, but like I think it's more there's a difference between a buff and like just like someone who loves movies, loves comedy, loves whatever. Like as long as you like watch enough of stuff and kind of know what your style is, and you're learning and you're inspired and you're watching enough different things, like you don't. It's like people shame each other for not seeing
Absolutely. Yeah.
everything. It's annoying.
It is annoying. I would say though that I was really into general comedy. But I definitely was not a buff in stand up specifically. I mean, still to this day, I've seen everything, not everything current, but like a lot of the current stuff. Every time there's a new Netflix special, I watch it. And I watch like anytime I see a new Conan set or the late night show set.
You love it. You love stand up. You love everything about it. Like, tell me more about like,
everything.
yeah. Do you get started? Tell me when you got. I'm asking a million things, but tell me when you got like started. Like, was that like did you go to college or did you just go right into stand up, or kind of happen after high school?
It happened right after, kind of like at the same time, or maybe towards the end of high school. Towards the end of high school, like my senior year, I did an open mic for the first time. I also had a lot of like speaking jobs in high school, public speaking opportunities, and I loved that. And I loved making people laugh. And
Always? Like, where did that come from? Where does this come from?
My mom is really funny. She's hysterical. She's one of those people that talks a mile a minute. She's got a lot going on. She's all over the place. She's like very larger than life, absolutely, and boisterous. And she's a very lively woman. She's incredible. She's super funny. I mean, if she always says that if she could go back, she would be a writer, a comedian, and I think she would be tremendously successful if she could have done that.
I don't doubt it just by the way you're describing her, and I can tell just by the expressions on your face how serious you are about what you're saying. But she must be proud of that, or at least excited about what you're doing and your career and the path that you've gone.
I think so. I think, yeah. I think it's a bit bittersweet. Candidly, I think it's like, man,
that makes sense.
And she's an older mom, and what she would hate for me to ever say, but so she definitely came up during a time when that was absolutely not an option for her.
Right. A lot of comedians I talk to don't even know that it's an option for them. They're like, I didn't know you could just go to an open mic. I didn't know, like, how do you actually get into comedy? People don't no.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a ton. And I feel like that is definitely one thing that I have had with youth is it was very accessible to me how to become I just went on Reddit and they were like, go to an open mic. I did the first open mic I went to.
Yeah, I wanted to hear about that.
It was at Tao Comedy Studio, and I did not know it was an open mic. I was just like, oh, these are just very eclectic comedians.
That's what you're kind.
Well, I think also because I thought it was a show, I just assumed this is comedy. And I was the only one laughing, and there were some curious eggs for sure on that mic.
Had there ever not been curious eggs? I think you just said at open mics, at every open mic.
I have to be honest, to this day, I don't know if I've seen. Well, also, do you know? I'm not shit talking here because they're, I think, very good and went on to have very successful careers. Do you know there's a triplet comedian duo? There's sort of Guido, Northeast Italian. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Maybe.
Well, anyway, it was just like, I remember they were there, and I think it was in the beginning where they did a bit where they're identical triplets and they all finished each other's sentences. And that was particularly wild to me at that time. And
they had a polished act. That can be impressive,
Yeah, I think
make you chuckle.
It became more impressive nowadays. I think they've been around the block. I think this is in the very beginning where it was like, wow, this is an open mic situation. I don't know, when you go to an open mic and you're like, ooh, I'm at an open mic. Like, I'm seeing some of the crazy, I feel like I'm at a circus sometimes when I'm at It was definitely one of those experiences. I remember they were there, just a lot of really quirky comedians I'm not sure I've ever been to an open mic to this day that was as quirky as that first one. But I remember sitting there, I had a leather jacket on, and I remember thinking I looked cool. I was 17 or something. And then afterwards, someone came up to me and they were like, oh, are you a booker? Are you a scout? Because I didn't go up at the open mic. And they thought that very sincerely. And I was like, oh my gosh, they think I'm part of the comedian community. What
it's the jacket. It's the jacket.
Yeah. I thought everyone was so welcoming.
Well, that's cool. This was where?
The Tao Comedy Studio.
And that's in LA?
It's in LA, in Koreatown.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And that was my first experience at one. And then eventually I did start going. I used to just go to them and be like, am I going to sign up? No, I'm too afraid. And then finally I was like, I just have to. And I did it. And then once I did it, I remember afterwards, I did really well my first one. And
wow. Was it because you had supportive audience, or did you really feel like all these fucking jokes are good, or maybe a little bit of both?
I think both. I think people were genuinely laughing because I was very young, and I definitely was talking about being young. And honestly, I still have some of those same jokes from my first.
You know what you're doing. You were studying all the right people. Your mom's a funny lady. You didn't dive into it without going to the open mic 6 times. You're not gonna fucking fail miserably.
I had a sense.
I've seen you. What's
It
that?
was, I remember,
Yeah.
I said, I think I had a sense for the vibe going, having been to so many, maybe, I don't know, but I never, even to this day, when I go to an open mic, it's kind of like Russian roulette if things are going to go horrible
Yeah. Not
or
always your fault though, I guess.
true, true. I think people were laughing at me genuinely and also just like, they like, that's the kid, I was very young and people wanted me to do well. And so I think it was both.
Yeah. Sounds like a good night. What about the next like open mics and shows number two through like the next 100? How did those
Number
go?
number two is always that's I feel like always the story where the first one's incredible and then the second one
Almost
is
everyone I talked to.
yeah is how did they not bite on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually think though overall I've experienced most of my bombs after the first 20 shows. I feel like usually people have a great show and then suddenly everything dips and that's when they really start the uphill battle. I feel like I had a pretty good clean run in the beginning and then once I started doing real book shows and once once I started, I opened for or used to open for Jeff Garlin quite a bit when I was a lot, maybe around 18, 19, 20. And those shows that was when I was really cutting my teeth. And it was like, people didn't care that I was, that I was young. It was like really make me laugh. And I had to like really get in there. And it was, those shows were definitely harder for me. I learned a lot from comedy from those shows.
But did you do, it sounded like you did, I can just, by the way, talking, you probably did okay, even if you didn't like crush every single joke up there, while opening for Jeff Garland. It sounds like you were able to hold your own.
I would, there were times where I definitely didn't. I can tell you two shows at the Improv Lab that are just tattooed into my memory. One where I had to restart halfway through. I was 19. It was horrifying.
Okay, that's different than starting a joke over.
Yeah, my whole set, I restarted. And then another
oh no,
it was horrible. Oh, Adam, it was so bad. I had people so I went to college for a year. And then I moved back to LA sorry. I guess fast forwarding through the story, I graduated high school, did a year of stand-up in LA, then went to college for a year, then came back. And when I came back, I went to LMU, the college here, for just a semester before I then quit and decided to do comedy full-time. But during that semester, I was in a fraternity and some members of that fraternity, it was a cinematic fraternity. Some members of that fraternity like surprised me at a show. And I'm the type of person where at the show I was talking about where I restarted. I'm the type of person where I don't love when people surprise me with their presence, like especially from my past. And I'm like, because otherwise I would have told them this is, a show that's going to be rougher for me. Come to a different one.
Right.
So I saw them in the audience and I was like, I just freaked out, forgot words, forgot my set. And I was like, can I start again? It was horrifying. It was the most horrifying in front of people that I respected. It was a disaster.
But these sound like they were a while ago. Like these are.
Yeah.
Like,
these were like 20, 20, maybe 18. I want to say 20.
Do you ever have fear that that's something like that could happen again? Like,
Absolutely.
you do have that fear.
Yeah. I think almost in the same way where are you ever afraid that you're going to say something random? Okay.
Yeah. So you're going to blurt out something that totally changes the course of your life.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do that, just to say some words that can be interpreted by another human being in a certain way that will change the course of your trajectory in some way.
Yeah. Yes. Or even that it's sort of that same thing where you're on a ledge and you're looking down. You're just like, what if I jumped?
Dude, I don't want your job. This is why I just want to talk to you people and not want to actually like do it. Like, I'm fine with this. This is because oh man, it's like a minefield up there.
I feel like this in many ways for me is worse. I get more I never do podcasts. I usually decline.
Oh, well, I appreciate it then.
That's
really funny.
Dislike because my words.
That's good to know.
Your words are there forever. I mean, that's why, like, not forever until you take it down, and then someone finds it and says, like, I feel like podcasts are almost more frightening to me because of the posterity of it all.
People have phones and they record stuff at shows, and people have memories and things like that too. True. I don't know.
Although many places take the phone now.
Yeah. And most people don't like film at smaller shows unless it's like, I guess with like permission or something like that, or I guess maybe just for a few seconds. I guess I don't know what all the filming etiquette is, so I don't really film anything. Well,
you're right. There are ways to definitely capture the moment of absolute despair of a comic on stage. Crazy, but for some reason, the concept of a podcast or even acting, I'm like, it gives me great anxiety to know that there's a piece of me somewhere that just lives in that moment. I don't love it.
Has your mom been to your shows before? I'm guessing yes, and I'm hoping not those two.
She has. She does come. She's of all my family members or even friends, she's my greatest critic for sure. She's like, she's always trying to get me to do new material. And then when I do new material, she's critical of that new material. She just, I don't know.
Is she helpful though?
She is helpful. She's really funny. So sometimes she'll be like, you should try this. And usually when family members give advice, you're like, please, you have no idea what you're talking about. But
1 out of 11 things is helpful. Yes. And the 10 things that she says are not helpful are so annoying.
Yes. Yeah, that's where I'd put it.
But it's your mom, so you just have to take it.
Exactly.
Take that, especially if she's not an authority, but has an opinion. Her opinion carries weight.
You have to nod. Also, because she's going to say it anyways. So it's just, how are you going to preserve yourself upon impact of the words?
Do you feel like her feedback is constructive criticism, or is it more blunt than that?
I would say it's always well-intentioned. It always gets to the thing that I'm the most insecure about.
Right. Why do parents do that? Why does family do that to each other?
Well, I think
why does it come so natural?
Know. I think she probably doesn't know that anytime I do old material, I feel very self-conscious about it because everyone wants to be the comedian.
Yeah, she was never a comedian, so she wouldn't know that.
Yeah. So, and I'm like, well, this was like an audition or I had people here that I needed to see old material, or this is a new room for me. So I wanted to, play it safe.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah. I try to explain that to her, but
you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Have you opened for George Lopez?
No, absolutely not. Well, not apps. I said that like I wouldn't. I would of course open for George.
Yeah. I know what you mean. You were just like, it hasn't happened. No, that hasn't happened about that. Tell me more about just like the LA journey and like the comedy journey and some of the highlights. If no George Lopez, yes, Jeff Garland. Mom's comes but she's supportive, but gives me strong feedback. Tell me more of the highlights of the journey and what else you're working on. I won't take up too much more of your time.
I would say that highlights.
Besides this podcast.
Of course. I feel like when I was first starting out, fortunately, I got really good tape, which I feel like is so important in a young comedian's career because then it lets them get booked on shows beyond someone being there or beyond word of mouth. And I did a lot of festivals that I had a great time at right after I dropped out of college. I did a show where previously I'd only ever done like 5 to 10 minute sets. And then I did the Pittsburgh Comedy Festival and they were like, hey, do you want to come back for our New Year's Eve and do a half hour for like 2,000 people? And I was like, wow, yes.
That's exciting. Damn.
Yeah. You don't say no to that. But also they didn't know that. I'd only done like 10 minutes sets before. So I just had to kind of come up with 20 minutes out of nowhere. in maybe like 3 months or something crazy. But that was definitely a highlight of my early stand-up career. I love the traveling of it all. I love being in other places. I'm trying to plan a kind of cross-country tour this summer, hopefully COVID allowing. I'm trying to think of
That's cool.
other sort of grindy highlights. I still mic a lot. A lot of comedians don't like to mic. I love to mic. I don't love to. I do. It's like it's my version of going to the gym because I can't actually go to the gym.
Right. You just want stage to be on stage. I mean, it is whatever else, what you want to call it is almost irrelevant, is it not, to some degree? It's just like stage and people looking at me, microphone and people looking at me. I get a chance to tell my jokes and work on stuff. Like, that's the gym, like you said.
I think I do feel like people talk a lot about how the looking at you part of comedy. And while I do enjoy the attention, it's definitely not my favorite part. It gives me a lot of anxiety. I think similar to like the podcast of it, as I was mentioning earlier, like being in front of a camera, how that gives me anxiety to be in front of people for posterity. I think the attention of it all actually gives me anxiety, or maybe it is. I don't know.
What about the laughs? What about the laughs?
I think that's probably.
Is that the best part? What is the best part? Is it when
I think it's
something your joke you worked on for a long time gets laughs?
Yes, I think it's. I'm. The best part is that when making people laugh. The worst part, actually, I would say, is the looking at you. I don't know. Just conceptually in my head, I'm like, all these people are focused exclusively on me. That's horrifying. But when you can get them to laugh, it's the adrenaline rush. I'm definitely an adrenaline person. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hear. And what's up?
Would you ever? Would you ever do stand up, or you just talk to us?
I mostly would just talk to you. I did take one seminar class or whatever, and it was fun, and I did like okay at it. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. It was at the what was it? It's the name is slipping my mind. But it was like at a house here in what's that house where they filmed here in the Valley, where they filmed that sitcom with those dudes? They have a pool. It's like a valley house. The unemployed people. What the fuck was the name of that shit?
The alcoholics, workaholics.
Yeah. At their house, at that like house, they do like a stand up like kind of like shows and whatnot. And I did like an afternoon seminar there. It went okay.
Oh yeah.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, I always
no.
people to do stand up. I feel like, or just to try it. Also because so many people and they're like, I could do that. I'm like, okay, go do it. Go try it. Just so we're all on the same page. You go try it and then come back and tell me that you could. But I do think you're very charismatic and that's not where I'm coming from.
I appreciate that. But yeah, no. I think it's see, I want to be, I like being funny when there's no pressure on me to be funny. Yeah. That's much easier. Dance. I don't want to be dance monkey dance with everyone looking at me like you're describing.
Exactly. It's the dance monkey dance of it all. It's the looking.
Yeah. And what about hopes and dreams? Obviously, you're talking about a tour, but what are some of maybe the shorter term and like longer term like goals as far as do you act also? You're going to write something that you're going to be in? We're making a movie. What's the plan here? Stand up. You're just a hardcore stand up.
What's the plan?
You don't have to have one or one set in stone.
Right now, I do stand up, or been, now that it's been coming back, I've been doing stand up, and that's been phenomenal to come back and be doing that. But during the pandemic, I did a lot of writing. I wrote for Betty, which is a show on HBO. What We Do on the Shadows, which is on FX, and Sprung, which is about to come out, which is on Amazon. And I've really enjoyed that, and I would definitely love to do more of that for whoever will take me. One day would love to sell a show, would love to produce.
You will. You're like already writing on these shows that, at your young age and doing stand up, but beyond just doing those things, you have like, I can really tell that you have like a good attitude about everything and the right approach, and you learn and you laugh at yourself. Well, I don't believe that you were laughing at yourself during those 2 bombing times, but besides that, you're pretty good at it.
You're
I
right.
bet.
Absolutely not laughing at myself.
not those 2 nights. So that's cool that you've been able to
Thank
be
you.
so prolific and do these great things. And
Not prolific, but we're on the grind. We're on the grind. I don't know if I'll ever act. I feel like I could enjoy acting. The people in my life and around my life definitely would like me to act. And I feel like I could enjoy it. I think confidence is so much of everything, and it's something that I have zero confidence, negative. Can you have negative? I think once I maybe take a class, I don't know.
Yeah, once you actually like do it, then you'll get more comfortable at it. So it doesn't matter that you have negative confidence, because you could like go from like -5 to -3. Like you don't have to like go all in one day. Like
true. Yeah. Well, I think that's how
it's just more work and another thing to commit to. I think for like me with any like additional endeavor, it's not, if I mean, I don't know, maybe we rationalize it by the fear of failure by saying like, oh, I can't take on more, but I don't know.
Also true. Also super true. There's definitely a lot of fear of failure in there. But it's also just anytime I've seen my face on even Zoom, I'm like looking at my head sometimes. I'm like, gee, not that I love my face, but it's just,
it's just funny.
It's just so there. My roommate has do you know Jake Rush? Have you seen him around?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
He's a comedian. He's really funny. He talks in his stand-up and has been trying to really crack this bit where he's talking about how we're not designed to like look at ourselves. Really only people that live by large bodies of water know what they look like in, ancient history. Like, and that's how I feel. I'm like, I feel like it's always weird to me to see myself. Maybe not always, but I'm not the most comfortable with it.
I just don't like how in a mirror image is not what I really look like. It's like, it makes it like confusing if I want to like part my hair. That's not really how it really looks. Looks like the other way to other people. Like my mole is on the wrong side for other people compared to how I normally see it in the mirror. Like all these kinds of things. And
it looks worse, right? When it's flipped, it always looks exponentially worse for some reason.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Because we're not symmetrical. We're not symmetrical. So we're seeing like the other, I don't know.
I'm pretty symmetrical. I almost wish I was less symmetrical. I just have this big, round, bulbous head where I'm just like, maybe spice it up. Give me a freckle or something.
Yeah, maybe I'm symmetrical too. I'm almost perfect as well. Oh boy. Well, what else? Anything else we're working on? Anything else you want to talk about? I'll kind of give you the floor to mention those things, if anything. Otherwise, you can plug and promote whatever you want. Social media projects. I kind of just threw a lot of things your way, but I'll let you do your thing.
I have nothing, truly. I wish I write for, again, What We Do in the Shadows, Betty, if you want to check those out. Betty season 2 is coming in June. That's all I got.
How can people find and follow you and look for upcoming shows?
Instagram. You can get on my Instagram.
And also, what is that?
My Instagram, of course, is right. It's Wally Baram. It's my name at Instagram. Yeah.
At Instagram.com. Yeah. People will find it. No, but what were you going to say before that? You had something you wanted to mention.
I didn't really talk about a person.
We talked about a lot of different people. We talked about George Lopez. We talked about your mom. We talked about, I was going to see if you had like a pet bug that we were going to talk. Oh, your horse. I forget the horses' names. There were 2 of them. Maybe it'll be the first Horses I Love episode. We'll see.
Yeah. No, wait, don't say a horse though. Don't say Wally loves a horse.
No.
Either think I'm a horse girl or I'm committing some felonies.
Yeah. I'll just use only horse clips for social media though.
Yeah. Thank you. Wow.
You got it. On that note, again, or for the first time, I appreciate it for sure. The time, this was fun. Yeah, I'll keep you posted with everything, and let's talk more
Totally.
soon.
This was a joy. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Bye, Adam.
Later. So there you have it. My conversation with Wally Baram. I appreciate her time for sure. That was fun. I could talk with her about bugs all day. For real, I still kind of want an ant farm. But anyway, for everything about this show, of course, head to peoplewelovepodcast.com. That's at People We Love Podcast on Instagram. I am at Adam Choit on Instagram and Twitter. And I think that's about all I got for today. I appreciate you guys listening. Thanks as always, and let's talk soon. Peace.